I'm Jeffrey Roadco, and this is my Potter's Journal. It is July now 2025. In today's video, we will make a handled batter bowl. And we will go over some of the steps you don't see in the videos, aside from just throwing. But it's also about how do you get started? How do you get started? For me this time, I just come off a big show where I put so much energy into it when I pulled on strengths, energies I didn't know I had. But then after you get home, the studio, so much focus was put into it. The question is, what do I do now? How do I get started again? Where do I begin? How do you get the focus back? Well, fortunately, I realized I promised somebody this bowl months ago and forgot. Friend from the farmer's market, fellow vendor. So that'll get me started. Plus, I have my Potter's Journal. So let's see what's going on in the studio today. But you know, first, I thought you might want to see this. What is it? What is it? What is it? Well, for the show, I needed chip and dip plates. And one thing I never do is set them out in the sun to dry. What happens, though, when then it rains and you forget they're there? And they dry again and it rains again and you forget they're there. And you see them days later. Well, this is what happens to them. Okay, it could be a beautiful, let's fire them and glaze them, art installation. We'll do one, each and every one a different color. First, though, serious business in the pottery, the batter bowls. Okay, and there we go, the slam center. And this is 1 3/8 pounds of clay for fairly good-sized batter bowl. People always want to know how much they hold. Yeah, I don't supply that information. And they are fairly heavy. A batter bowl isn't something you want to have that as a weak and delicate pot. It needs to be fairly heavy to take abuse in the kitchen. Okay, and we are getting a bottom nice and smooth and clean. Even if this was something decorative, I wouldn't put one of those, swirls on the bottom. Okay, one of the beginner mold swirls to, I don't know, declare that it's handmade, or is that some kind of decorative thing? Now I'm leaving plenty of clay up at the top. To give it the strength up there, and because we will be pulling a spout from up there. I never did a rolled rim. But if the clay is going to be needed up there, just keep it and leave it up there. Okay, and we'll use up some of that clay that's down under the bottom, get it with the rib, and then stop short of the lip. And most of these, I will do some with the slipware technique, but most of them will be blue. And to decorate it, okay, I will put a black slip down on the bottom. Not near the top, because usually I think the decorative element would naturally go a little bit higher or more at the top. But because we're putting a handle on, the slip would just get smeared. So we move the decorative part down low. And okay, a couple of lines, and then the squiggle. And I need to, for the squiggle, I need to get it right at the perfect angle to make the wave, I should say, in this instance, not a squiggle. Okay, and stop it just as it, I needed to stop it. Oh, that's too bad. I needed to stop it just half an inch sooner. And after these have set up just a bit, just a little bit, okay, I come back and put the spout on. I get it wet on both sides with just a drop or two. And then I thin it out, because there is a ridge, there's a heavier lip, or rim around the top, and a ridge in it, so I'm pulling up a little bit so that it's even thickness everywhere. So that when we pull it out, okay, and then wet again, just a little bit. And first, okay, I will, okay, 2 fingers. First I will pull it out at an angle the whole way, and then I will give the lip, okay, a bevel down, and a bevel down so that it comes straight out. If it comes out and down, it'll cause it to drip, and we don't want that. And if it's not perfect, it's not supposed to be, but you can always change just a little bit. Pull up, pull up. And really, it's not really pulling up much. We're just getting that ridge out so that when we pull it out, we don't have a ridge in our spout. And you'd think that this would be the point where I'd need to round that off, but I don't, so I won't. Okay, and the 2 fingers there, and then first we are pulling out, and then, okay, a bit down. Okay, and yeah, it's nice altering the round form. And when I do that, it's thicker on this side and thinner on this side, so I'm pushing down just a little bit to even it out. Not that it needs to be the same everywhere. Maybe when you grab the handle, you want it to come out a little bit at an angle. Who's to say that's not the way it should be? Are we in the picture? You've heard that before. Where have you heard that before? You've heard that before, so we're getting it just a little bit wet. And, okay, dip my fingers in water. Pull up, pull up, pull up to get that, and then back and forth to get that ridge out of there, so we've got the same thickness. And it's fun to alter pots. This is so easy. We change the character of the pot entirely. It becomes something totally new. Alright, and let's see. I don't think this will be angle number 3. I don't think there's any angle. Maybe that we can do this and you can actually see what's happening. So you will just have to try it yourself. So dried out just a little to do the spout, and then a little bit more to do the cutoff. So it all has to be just all right. Now they need to stiffen up just a little bit more before we can put the handle on. Handles. Score it a little bit. A little bit of slip on there. Oh, don't you hate handles? I don't pull them to start with. I roll out a coil and flatten it. So I've done that in other videos. Let's just get these on here today. So here's the thing about handles. We let, after throwing the pot, the clay dry out just a little before we put the spout on. And then we let it dry out a bit more, so to cut it off the bat. And then to put the handles on, they need to dry out to just when the pot is stiff enough that it won't change shapes when you put the handle on. But here's the thing. That last step, you have got to cover them really, really good with plastic. Really, really good with plastic so that they can sit a week. Why a week? Because you're not going to want to put these handles on. You are going to put it off and put it off and put it off. So when you finally feel like putting on the handles, a week later, the pot is still so wet that you really barely need to score it. You barely need to score it, and when you attach this, it doesn't really matter if it's scored, that it just stays, that it just attaches and stays, because the handle is practically as wet as the clay in the pot. Okay, handles. Why does this part always get put off until finally you just say, I've got to do it or it'll never get done? And why was I so afraid of those handles? Well, it's not on a mug. It's on a different form. So it worked out. These have dried out overnight. In the summer, it's very humid, so they don't dry out much, with the handles covered. And now we will give them a dip in the slip. But only 3 of them. The rest will be the sea mist. Because, okay, we have to sell these things. But we'll do maybe, you know, keep momentum going with some designs from the BATTETR pan, from what we had just finished doing. Okay. So finding focus again. The batter bowls were a special order. But what about the chip plates? I need all 5 sizes of those. What about the chip plates? Chip plates. Chip plates. The small ones at least. There's still another board inside on these. Okay. Chip plates. So focus found? Well, just on the production wear. What about the more creative side? Stop back and see what's going on in the studio. next